like that.
I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Caitlin's daughter goes to step one.
We'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We lost our former chaplain, Father Charles Allen today. Came here from Jamaica Plains, and they made Fairfield his home. Also, last year, Joe has pointed out we had 84 line of duty firefighter deaths. And then finally, for the residents of the Summers property that caught fire earlier, especially his Genevieve, Benjamin, and Archer passed away. Minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? I didn't see any.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Commissioner, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Thank everyone for coming. Last meeting, we're trying to keep the focus issues that will not change. Who stays, who's going to leave. They're moving on to other endeavors. We're all here because we know that at some point we might leave for ourselves or a loved one to call for help. We all want, I believe, best fire response, the best emergency for ourselves, our loved one. But what was apparent to me and sat here is that we have firefighters who have really impressive skills. The skill level of firefighters kept up with the time. Stations hasn't kept up with the time, and even point out the number of people on the truck hasn't kept up with the fires. So we were pushing for a study to try and get these issues looked at, both so we can get knowledge and expertise of study authors, and also so we can try and have something, because we're going to ask the town taxpayers to come up with money for this. They're going to take political will, financial resources, time and attention devoted to this duty, and we wanted all the time and attention focused on these issues. Those issues are going to be here. We do something positively to get them done. We're going to, based on the last attempt to try and improve the situation, it's not going to be an easy fix. We do have a new administration in town hall. Here, we can discuss today how we can come to some agreement process so that we can move forward, so that we can make recommendations to the town, some unity, so we can try and sell that to the town, because it's going to cost time and money. It's not going to be the easiest thing. That was why the former chair and I letter. It is not popular. That's our effort, and I hope that we can all discuss what we need to do to move the department. That's my report. Chief?
Couple of things to bring the commission up to speed on. First, regarding Father Allen, a great man, really good priest, an amazing chaplain for the department. And I know that others have witnessed this, when you're at a memorial service or any kind of service, from time to time, a priest or a presenter has not been arranged in advance, or plans fall through. Father Allen would be there, and I'd turn to him and say, "Father, would you mind giving an invocation on the fly?" Every time he said yes, and was eloquent and appropriate to the event or occasion. There was a video that Fairfield University put up on their website of him talking about his role as member of the clergy and serving at Fairfield University and teaching and presenting to classes. And he did all of that with a sense of humor, and he was excellent at it, and he's sorely missed. I received word from Fairfield University today that a funeral or a memorial mass will be held on January 27th, which is Saturday at St. Thomas, and it will be followed by a reception at Fairfield University. I've been working through the vice president at Fairfield U and asked that our current chaplain, Reverend Alita Ward, as well as the fire department color guard, be part of that memorial service. And I was told today that that would be the case. And certainly when we get more details at times and such, we'll share that with the commission as well as members of the department. On the operating budget, we've submitted operating budget. The original first pass was a 6.5% increase. That did not include the additional headcount. As I reported, we have requested a fire inspector and a per diem instructor down here at the fire school. And so we presented not only the budget, but those additional positions to the first selectman and the finance department. Have not gotten feedback from them. And I think that that's true of most of the departments that have presented their budgets to the first selectman. That is typical at this early stage, looking to see what the total number of requests are, what it pans out to be globally, the impact on the town budget. And then there is some revisions that are made after consultation with the departments, what can you afford to give up. And we do certainly have some ideas on where we can trim the budget if we're forced to do that. But we want to pursue the additional positions as a priority. And that is not where we would recommend that we make any cuts. But like I said, we have not received any feedback from the front office, but expect that over the next couple of weeks, the budget will tighten up. The other part of that 6.5% is some very broad estimates that were inputted based on the arbitrated salary increases. And I think there's some fine tuning that the deputy and I will have with the budget director, Frank McNeary, because we're about $300,000 difference between the original number and where he is now. And I would expect that we will have some hard negotiations to resolve that, not only increasing the budget based on last year's budget plus the wage increase, but in several of the lines, we have requested increases, in particular, our Department of Business Overtime and Training. So more on that as it develops. Capital budget, I reported on this last month, and the details of what we have asked in each of the years. This year is a $100,000 request for station rehabilitation. We have all of the bathrooms at Station 1 on Reef Road to complete. And we have bids from last spring that we'll have to refresh, but that is a solid number for us to work off of. And that will come before the Board of Finance for approval in the next month or so. You mentioned the station study. The first selectman has asked for more detail on the study before it goes to the Board of Selectmen. We had requested to be put on the Board of Selectmen's agenda last meeting, and it was not. He requested additional information. I provided that to him, and we're pursuing its review by the Board of Selectmen. Their next meeting is on January 31st, but we don't have confirmation that study is going forward. Staffing. We have 2 new firefighters that have been selected to fill vacancies, Clayton Ahern and Sean Stewart. Deputy and I have met both of them. Some of the members of the commission that sat on the interviews met them as well. I think that they are anxious, certainly. One just had, Sean, that just had a baby. So he's very excited to have a couple of weeks before, well, actually a month on the start of the academy, but they're very anxious to get started. And lastly, on entry-level testing, I have a meeting with firefighter app tomorrow. The committee has worked through the issues of testing. We have a solution that would reduce the cost for candidates to no more than $100, and that there would be testing opportunities twice a year for a list that lasts 2 years when we first give the first test. So hopefully we can resolve any outstanding issues and get departments to sign on to the revised protocols for the testing. What's been eliminated, and I know that Commissioner Brennan was very concerned about the interviews that were done virtually. The artificiality of sitting behind a computer screen answering questions to dead air. No live body on the other side asking those questions. We've eliminated that step in an exam, and then all of the interviews at the that will streamline the process, allow control. One of the issues that we have discussed with the committee, and we should review it again at our next meeting, is the selection process and whether any adjustments to the rule of one, essentially, that we have for inviting candidates. Look at that entire list and determine whether we interview on any other criteria other than for those that live nearby. Have an opportunity, if they finish high enough on the list, we may get to them. And having the ability to attract candidates that live in Fairfield County, that they should, is one of the concerns, as well as inviting veterans active duty military to interview. Doesn't give them an advantage to in any way points. It would be based on their candidacy would be based on their scores in your interviews, but certainly something to consider as we are revising the process. Make sure that we take every opportunity to consider other options to get the best candidate for the fire department. So more on that, we'll continue to work, and we'll circle back with the interview panel from the last time and others, and including HR. We developed some protocols for the selection process for the interviews only. And that concludes.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
This time.
Actually, I do. How many more are left from the ones we approved in the summer?
Yes. So we are at candidate 8 out of 13.
Yeah, okay.
And they will die on the list, because that list will expire with the creation of a new.
Okay.
And we have advised them in writing that the list is expiring, because obviously they are anxious and interested. Hey, am I going to get a job out of this? We advise them to participate again in the next process. And if they did well last time, it certainly is a good indication that they should do well again.
Thank you.
Deputy.
So among our notable incidents in the last time since we last met, we had a fire at restaurant on Post Road. Had to do with the firebox of the fireplace they have within there. There was a delayed fire in court at Tradeby Environmental Services on Cross Street. It was initially a relocation for our personnel, but then Power Ladder 2 got called to the scene. Also, members of our department, so the Fairfield County Hazmat, also responded to the scene. PFAS foam has been removed from all our 7 pumpers that had internal foam tanks. We're very happy to get rid of this because accidental deployment of this would be an issue. God forbid we had a small accident, spilled or something like that. So we're happy to get rid of that. And the state does have a program of remuneration for the that we've expended. So we're going to go through that process once we get waste from the hazmat company. In regard to our radio project, yesterday there were a sea of Norcom vehicles outside police headquarters. They installed, they had a tower. A lot of their personnel were on scene to install in the Radio Shack that's on the rooftop of police headquarters and on the tower that's right behind police headquarters. They were working on a microwave dish, which is like the redundancy for this project. They were working on that today on the tower. I was told that they also did the same attack after they did this. They went over to Woodhouse Road tower and shack, filled that with the equipment. Their third spot of our equipment is Roncalli Hall. That's already complete. So at least the good thing is that the hardware of the radio project is well ready and finished. And then a lot of the portables are being staged at Norcom, and they have to be flashed with codes and everything according to our the state that we're going to install on our radios. And Chief Caliper has close with their personnel in the project. As the chief said, that 2 candidates are being processed for the CFA class that's starting February 13th. On a few days before they'll start here, and they'll get some initial HR and our people here, and then they'll start on February 13th up at the CFA. Right now, they're completing their medicals and their background investigation by the police department. Met them, and I some of you have met. Personable, very eager to start, as the chief said. The facilities, the chief mentioned, the capital funds projects which are distinct from the operating budget. It's working its way through the finance department and the boards. In addition to the bathroom renovation, though, I did want to mention we've also requested money for a shop truck to replace the existing shop truck. Let's see, and the chief mentioned this week. It's my.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add the
Yes.
chief's report, and certainly for the firefighters in the room. We have had ongoing challenges with the overhead doors. Major project that was undertaken a couple of years ago to replace the overhead doors with clear glass doors. There have been multiple failures of the door systems. Emergency brakes have been installed because the doors are released and come down. Very heavy doors and life-threatening circumstances hit anybody. But there have been failure after failure after failure, not just at one station, not just at one door. At one station, essentially, all three stations, multiple doors at stations. It's one thing to get a lemon, but to get 3, 6, 9, 11 doors and have this level of failure is, just, I've never seen anything like it. So we met with the purchasing agent to pursue through the company a resolution, and will include the town attorney, peers at appropriate time to have the company either resolve the issue, bring in a third party to fix the issue, or recover through the performance bond. And anybody in business knows that especially for a small business, threatened loss of a performance bond is a very significant event for them, ability for their standing in the business community. So we think that they will be very motivated to resolve the issue. However, we're extremely concerned that it has gotten to this point where they have not fixed the problem. And this was a $130,000 job. We've been chasing for a solution. We've only paid them 50% of, and that was the agreement up front, 50% for the materials, and then balance upon completion. We haven't paid any more on that, but it is something that it is turning to all of us, and we will work to resolve it. There's a lot of theories about what it might be. A mismatch of components, whether the rollers are sized appropriately to the tracks or something else. I would be speculating. If we knew what the problem was, it would have been fixed. But we have not been able to resolve and even identify. It's like a fix of a problem and then another problem, or then it happens again. So I don't think that they're completely capable of developing a solution, and so we will pursue it through the president of the company, through purchasing, and if necessary, the town attorney.
Yes.
I just got one question, Chief. Maybe a follow. When this went out to bid, it was the only contractor that bid on it, correct?
What was the second one? Another one in purchasing picked them. There was a wide range.
Oh, there was a second one that was $1 million. Yeah, so the difference in price, see, there was a second one, that was, just, other companies, they could not get materials, and that's why overhead door, Bob and Ray's, were not, and did not bid on it because during COVID and all of the supply chain, challenges, they couldn't get, the materials to manufacture the doors. They couldn't guarantee, a timeline, and they didn't want to commit to that. So we ended up with the current vendor and another one that was, 9 times more expensive.
They're still having supply chain?
No, those issues have, been mostly resolved, and that's not the issue with the door. All of the parts and pieces that they installed are there. The doors go up and down, but there are failures on a regular basis. That the overhead door will jump the track, a roller will come off, or it won't go up all the way. And there's been some door strikes with apparatus because they don't retract to the full open position, although the indicator lights would seem to indicate that the door is fully open. So there are a lot of it.
Yeah, please keep us informed. Yes. Yes, no.
Question.
Okay.
Direct. Is it correct to assume, Chief, that you're indicating that 11 doors were $130,000?
11, right?
I can't remember offhand.
It's three at, or 6 at Station 1, 3 at Station 2, and 2 at Station.
Mr. Finneran? Any other questions for the chief or the deputy?
Nobody got hurt, right? Or less about the doors.
Is Southport here? Southport, Stratfield. 1426.
Afternoon, Happy New Year, everybody.
You're Bill.
I'm gonna speak to the letter sent by the chair and the former chair, because the union figured prominently in the letter. If your intention was to get support and confidence in the members, you did the opposite. First, your letter went out, the majority of my executive board, my membership, as well as many news organizations assumed that that letter was from the entire fire commission, which it was. We later found out that it wasn't. Which is odd because this is stuff that's been going on for a while. We found it peculiar that you didn't reach out to the other 5 members of the board. I'm not gonna go through the entire thing line by line. There are a number of easily provable falsehoods in the things that you wrote, things that we've come here and testified to that shown you, that we've given you. But as far as the study goes, the most concerning part of it was if you move down to the paragraph, and forgive me, I don't like to usually read it. Said, the union would like to have the number of firefighters on each truck increase to the standards of their professional organization. They rely on National Fire Protection Association standard NFPA 1710, which addresses firefighter staffing in various situations. The NFPA is a self-funded nonprofit firefighters association. They do good research, but to date, 1710 has not been adopted by the state of Connecticut. And when we checked recently, only 6 municipalities, mostly the large cities in Connecticut, currently follow the standard. The union's proposal didn't include 1710 in our operation. We were staffing that would make us OSHA compliant. OSHA doesn't get mentioned at all in your letter. Secondly, the NFPA is not our professional organization. It is the professional organization of the entire fire industry. It's not a firefighter association. The association includes architects, engineers, manufacturers, electricians, first responders are included in that group, but it is certainly not a firefighter organization. They make the standards for almost everything that we do that has to have to do with fire safety. The NFPA didn't do any research. The NFPA relies on their research from outside places such as NIST and UL, studies that we included. Misrepresentation to say that the NFPA is some sort of arm of the fire department or the firefighters association. And that's what was implied in your letter. When the town put out the RFP, if you read the questions after the contractors responded, the town's response to what standard will you be using for response times? The town answers the NFPA. So if the NFPA standards haven't been adopted, the town agrees with us that those are the standards for response times, even though they're not a Connecticut state law. To have someone be doing a study and assuming that there'll be members of this commission on that study and part of the working group, not having a functional knowledge of what the NFPA even is disconcerting and gives no faith to anyone in here that this study will have any sort of relevancy. Any organization you get to come in here that is a legitimate consultant is going to use the NFPA as a standard. It's the only standard we have. The other ones that this body has cited and congratulated us on, moving from a 3 to a 2 in ISO, also not mentioned in your letter. We did get one failing grade. We got a 53% on staffing. We have a staffing issue. As far as going further in the letter where you say we have to worry about the taxpayers. Staffing wise, the proposal to open a new station, which by the way, our organization gave to you a new station and its impact on the community in September of 22. We gave it, I believe, after being asked for it numerous times. As soon as we got it, we provided it to you, and that included an additional station with proper staffing. The staffing of a station, if you continue to staff at 3 people for each of those stations, the staffing is the same as what we proposed. So there's no additional cost between yours, the proposal to add a station to the taxpayers and ours. However, you have the additional cost of a station itself. So all of these things together have given us again the impression that the deck is tilted and that this study is going to be pushed in a direction. This letter helps to confirm our suspicions. Thank you. I'll answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
I don't have a question for the union, but I do have a statement after, so if anybody else has got questions.
We identified that we wrote this letter. I take your comments, your advisement. Our intent was to try and keep the focus on to the community.
Yeah. Liam, can you speak up a little bit, because I'm having a hard time, and Sheila's having a hard time
I'm
there.
sorry, to that point, well, a couple of things. When did you write it? Because Commissioner Brennan posted on one of our Facebook pages almost those identical words 2 weeks before. So either you both had talked about this a long time ago, or you both have the same exact ideas. Because,
We went back and forth over a period of.
okay, then that explains.
I just, I was surprised when I saw the letter that went out. I sitting on this commission, that was quite disturbing. And I think, normally if I send a letter, if I should have sent a letter from here, the first line in that letter would be that these are my views and not the views of the commission. Because what ends up happening is people read the first line and they read the last line in those things. And that really, gave the appearance that that letter came from, even though it was signed by the former chairman and yourself, it gave the appearance that it came from the whole commission. And I do have a problem with that. So if I'm not gonna stop anybody from ever saying they can't, write a letter or make their opinion known. But at the beginning of that opinion, they should make it known that it is their opinion and not the opinion of the commission. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
One comment, I think. So I think there needs to be a very clear commitment to an honest study. It doesn't take any sort of bias going into that in terms of standards are going to be adhered to, which are not. There should be a clear goal and objective that's set in that study, right? Which I think there should be confidence from everybody. That's what's going to transpire, and if there's it's going to undermine that perspective, I think we need to make sure that that's on the table, understood, that it's addressed going in. That's I think in light of the comments that were made, it's completely understood as to why it should be made.
But isn't that the process we're following? I mean, we ordered study done, but that was approved, right? That was.
So
So,
I'm sorry. We requested that a study be done.
Right.
The selectmen's offices, or the board of selectmen is like, we order the study.
okay. And so. I apologize, right? So we're all gonna be happy with this study being done. I know 22, you supposedly have now. I joined in 23, so it's predated me. Are we all going to be satisfied that this study is gonna come back and answer? From my point of view, I don't want to be too tired. I just would like more information, right? So when we do invest, we're gonna be doing we're gonna make recommendations to do this to improve our firefighting capabilities through either having more firefighters on a truck or either to build a new fire station. I think that those decisions have to be framed by the right data coming to us, right? We can't, it's irresponsible for us, this group, to move forward without being armed with it. That's the path I think we have been on, irregardless of the letter, and I hope we can all move past that letter and realize it was written, I think, I don't want to speak for you, but in the spirit of trying to find a bridge that we can all get back to discussing and really try, because that's what we've been trying to do for the last bit of time here. And our hands have been somewhat tied. And we thought the best way to do this was to pursue this study and have it come back to us. And that data will inform us, then we can sit and hopefully a few months from now, make a decision on do we fight to have more people go on a truck, or do we fight to have a new station built? I don't know if we're gonna get both done in the same time frame. Who knows, maybe, but in today's day and dollars, probably not, right? So that's what was, from my point of view, was informing us, right? Are we gonna be happy with that study, or are we just gonna be wasting a couple $100,000 here?
I think the concern is ensuring that we are transparent and that there's not a bias going into it. So wherever the data leads, that's not a speaking going in.
And it's like I said, like, that's like throwing that out to like non-commission members to say like, hey, like, we're trying to go down this road to arm ourselves with more information. We're not trying to do delaying tactics. We're not, there's no like nefarious agenda here, right? We are trying to be more informed. And so I guess I throw it out to this, is this study gonna come back and appease people to say that's gonna inform this entire room to make it, because we're gonna, like, I'm gonna ask you guys, right? When this comes back, I'm gonna be like, hey, what are your thoughts, right? Because I don't get out of a truck every day to go fight a fire, right? So I guess that's what I'm asking anybody in the room, if you're like, this study's gonna come back and it's gonna be tilted or biased, like, okay, let's hit the brakes on that. Are you muted?
Questions?
Yes, I'm here. As one of the signers for the letter, thank you for the correction on the representation at NFPA, and we'll have to figure out to deal with that. My frustration, so my intention is that this study has to be unbiased. We have to get all the right facts, because it's the only way we're fulfilling our role as commissioners. And that my frustration with the ongoing media by the union has been that it is biasing the answer that our community will find acceptable because they're focused on a single portion of a number of issues that are facing us. And we need that our townsfolk are going to support our efforts to go forward. And if our efforts have some combination of facilities, equipment, and people, but all the media has been focused on people, we're going to have difficulty getting the community to understand what we're doing. And that was my concern, is the way I see it portrayed in the social media on the union. And that's what I felt I was doing.
It's my understanding that the first selectman is aware of these concerns. And has asked that the union president be on the study committee. You know, I think, I'm not sure that initially number of personnel was included in the study itself. So we'd have to sort of find that money. For him, but that would be something that perhaps we should ask him to do. He seemed why that was important. He also wanted something that we can all agree is an honest document to move forward on.
Right.
Sure.
I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it. I don't know a different way to say it, so I apologize if what I'm saying isn't coming across. The union doesn't have an opinion on staffing. We don't have one. We didn't do any study. We don't have the ability to do a study, neither does a consultant. The studies are done. The facts are what the facts are. Every professional organization agrees with the facts. There's not another set of facts out there. There's not a magic piece of equipment that negates a person. It just doesn't exist. And there's no, if it existed, it would have been presented in arbitration, it would have been presented in negotiations. It just it isn't there. You can't, there's nothing out there that says it's okay if you don't meet a minimum standard. And a consultant isn't gonna tell you that. If they didn't tell that, Southington is going through it right now. They had a study done. The study said, you gotta meet NFPA standards. Southington is a smaller community. The size of the community does not matter in minimum standards. If you have a fire truck staffed by professional firefighters, to be compliant, it needs to have 4 people on it. That's it. So after that study came out in Southington, there's 2 fears. One is tilting the deck in the study itself. The other one is when the study comes out and tells you what you don't want to hear, like it did in Southington, then you ignore it. Oh, never mind, didn't see what I wanted, so I move on. And that's our fear. And yes, I am going to be in that work group. And I plan on being an advocate.
You're a very effective advocate. But I think we all want a product that we can use to try and get consensus to get the funding for whatever makes the most sense.
Yes.
Chairman, I have a question.
This is the cheaper.
I don't want to cut off.
No, I'm good.
Okay. And maybe the chief can answer this. Was the funding approved for the study already by the previous administration?
Yes. So the funding is there in our station's renovation. Approved to spend for the study.
Okay, so the funding is there for the study.
Maybe the question is, do you need an authorization to spend the money?
Yes. So I need authorization to sign a contract with ESCI to begin the work. And that can only come, regardless of whether the money is there or not, it can, I don't have the authorization to sign the contract. The signature on the contract is the purview of the Board of Selectmen.
That's, and my other concern that I have is, and I know this study already, the request for proposal already went out and was answered and everything, but we need to make sure that whatever study we're doing, we're asking all the right questions we put into the study. So in other words, we don't want to study just for manpower and a study just for where should we locate the firehouses. But the study should include other things like whether or not the fire service should be doing EMS, whether or not we should and I had it in my original motion back from September of 2 years ago. But again, we don't want to narrow study. This has got to be a study, because whatever we do, it's for the next 50 years. So whatever it needs to be a long term and not just a quick fix. I understand, you know, personnel can help with the quick fix side of it, and that would probably be the easiest way to get things going. Acquiring land for a fire station is going to be difficult. You know, it's a hard sell. Many years ago, I was involved with trying to relocate Station 3. Neighbors didn't want to lose it. The other neighbors didn't want it. So there's a lot of issues that we need to deal with, but I believe it should be in that study and not just, again, yes, we need another firehouse. But you know, how big should that firehouse be? What type of apparatus are we going to need to put in it? You know, the firehouses that we have now, should they be relocated and moved? You know, I don't want to be building 2 or 3 firehouses, but you know, are they adequate for what we're going to need for the next 20, 30, 40 years? And that all needs to be somehow determined, and not just every year going, well, we need to do this and we need to do this. It needs to be planned out well in advance. So that's my opinion.
Question to build off, Joe. Has there been any concerns expressed about the scope of the study?
So the, just to, if I can circle back to the comments were made. So yes, 2 years ago or a year ago, we talked about the sequencing of the first study, the station study, followed by a strategic planning study for a full scope of services evaluation of what the Fairfield Fire Department should be doing, and any change of mission that should come of that. Our basic mission is to respond to the 10,000 calls for service that we have now, 66% of them being EMS calls. And that is not going to change. That is, whether we provide pre-hospital care and an ambulance service or not, the same parameters for response time are going to be important for both. And that would probably be the biggest change that would come out of any strategic planning study. But we agreed, and I presented back to the Board of Fire Commissioners that we would complete the station study, and when it's complete, that we would do a full strategic planning study for a long-term vision on scope of services. So that is how it's been teed up and to the extent approved by the Board of Fire Commissioners. So this study is necessary to take care of the immediate needs of the Fairfield Fire Department regarding staffing. And I think that, you know, Bill and I agree. We're going to need more staff, and I've been clear on that from the very beginning, that additional staff is going to be necessary. You just have to drive around town to see what is being built, where is being built, and the size of what's being built. And you look at the calls for service that go up from year to year. I think last year's numbers are in at 9,980 calls for service, an increase over last year, increase over 2 years ago. The demand is there. I think the study is going to, you know, recognize that. The scope of the study includes both station locations for new and existing stations, and the staffing needs of the Fairfield Fire Department. That is critical to get done, and you know, long-term changes in our mission, I think, is appropriate for the next study.
Any complaints, Chief, about scope?
Sorry?
Is there any complaints about scope, or is everybody scope that's in there is fine?
I haven't heard, you know, we have shared the scope of services, and I've, you know, the first selectman asked specifically, point out, so excerpts highlighted, this is the scope of service and provided to him.
Joe's comments. That's an issue with it. So we're just waiting on the board to act, basically.
When the way that, you know, I'd like to address a couple of things. First, we wouldn't start the study if there was intent to build bias into it. You know, we even talked about rejecting a candidate pool, a consultant because of previous bad experience where the outcome was decided before they stepped foot in a firehouse and started to write a plan. It was relayed directly to me. Why'd you say that? It's because we were told that's what the city wanted. And, you know, it completely destroys the credibility of that consultant. I've been very clear with the consultants that we want an independent study. We want them to talk to everybody, the Board of Fire Commissioners, the Board of Selectmen, the RTM members, the Board of Selectmen, the union, you know, the planning boards, to understand as much as they can about the community. And that's how they do these studies, to understand what is the current need, what is the projected need over the next 15, 20 years, and then make recommendations based on that. What will come back to the community is, here's your options. You can do this and it will result in an improvement of X, Y, and Z, or you can do this and it will have this improvement in service. And the town will have to make choices about which solution they are willing to sign on to for the initial investment and then subsequent investments after that.
So we needed this thing to just kind of start taking off. I think we all suffered a year last year with a contentious election. Who you liked, who you didn't like, I don't care, right? But things were gummed up. Like there's a molasses in the system. Let's get this thing going. Let's lean on the new board to say, let's get this study funded. Like let's, us as commissioners, say, we really want this done, right? We've patiently waited. We've got, you know, some people that are really are looking to see some movement, and it's still gonna take time, right? So you gotta start the race. So I think that's what we can do as a commission, is lean on the political body, say, listen, the election's done, let's get going, right? So we can get answers back, we can be informed, then we can come back and we can discuss this all together about what the best decision is to make when we get to it 6 months, 9 months, a year from now, whenever this comes back. I think that's our course of action. And that's what we should take, because we do it as quickly and as, you know, as prudently as possible.
I'm sorry. I thought that the board already voted to recommend to the Board of Selectmen of the study.
It's off our plate. That's what I'm saying. You gotta tell them, get going. You're elected. Do your job. Right? Like, I listened to all the political stuff for a year. Let's get to action.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear we're
I'm
having,
affiliated voter.
it's clear we're having issues. We've talked about paramedic issues on the medic side. We've talked about station issues. We've talked about staffing issues. So it's got to be all encompassing. It's very clear that there's issues across the board with all three. We're going to need to get remedied one way or the other. And I think excluding one or any of those now before going into the study is the type of bias that was discussed. I think the commitment from the board was going to go on to working that whatever options are presented on the table are ones that are in the best interest of the community in general, with right guidelines being used, and whatever those look like, political will and money that's going to cost, quite frankly, not our job, right? That's the job of the other bodies in town that they've been elected to do. And injecting some sort of political or financial bias into a decision before it gets sent over them is quite frankly inappropriate, and that's something that should be standpoint. So if it comes back that we need to spend $50,000 or $50 million, whatever it costs, and whatever is appropriate, should be forwarded on to the other bodies and advocated for the safety of local firefighters in town, as well as the community. If somebody's not willing to make that commitment, then they should not be sitting.
I don't disagree with you. I'm not sure that the ambulance issue, EMT issue is in this study.
In general terms.
No, it's not. The idea was that that would be done
Separately?
separately.
Yeah, because we've had issues, I think, on the paramedic response, if I'm not mistaken, there's a shortage of medics, I think, quite right altogether, so I think.
So I have shared with the commission in the past, you know, we track the on-time response by AMR. The standard is 90% of the calls within 8 minutes, and they are at 91%. So they're meeting their obligation under the agreement. And we do monitor, when there is a failure. It means that our firefighters are standing, rendering aid, desperately waiting for an ambulance. Because there's nothing more that our firefighters can do, to, keep a person alive. Simple as it is, and they're desperate for an ambulance. So when those circumstances come, are on the phone the next morning, problem solving with the provider, AMR, to make sure that we understood why there was a delay, and what can be done to make sure that and that happens on, when it happens.
Last piece just on that, because we touched on it briefly, the issue of community safety and fire safety and firefighter safety have to be one and the same altogether when it comes to the study. And again, if there are options that are more politically or financially feasible, and that's a decision that somebody wants to interject in the process for the boards that deal with that, that is for them. And I think, again, all three of those equities taken into account should be foremost and front and center when this study is conducted. Again, that is a commitment that I would expect from everybody on this commission, whoever it is that's appointed, how the process is going to play out. That's going to be the case, that it's not going to be just community safety or just firefighter safety or just fire safety in general. It's going to have all three together. And any bias that is going in there from a political or financial perspective should be a disqualifier from anybody serving on as far as I'm concerned. That is appropriate, not professional. So, not saying anybody's done that. I'm just saying in general that's something as an institution. Not an accusation.
Yes.
I'd like to follow up on what Alex just said, Commissioner Alex. But I read your information, Chief, that part of it was not being included in the study. All of it should be inclusive, medical side of it. Did I misunderstand that?
So there is,
What's being
what's being excluded is changing the scope of the Fairfield Fire Department's role in EMS. We are not anticipating in this study going from a first responder to a paramedic level or ambulance transport service. That would be part of a subsequent study.
Okay, so what he just indicated is all inclusive.
Well, the second piece I was talking about was more ensuring there wasn't bias coming in 3 areas the study should encompass. Separate from that, the scope of the work, whether or not that includes EMS is separate. So saying EMS is
Okay.
not included, but for the portion we are looking at, which safety of the town in general, what the long-term plan for the department look like, both staffing, physical standpoint in terms of the firehouses, potentially acquire a new one, all encompassing.
Clearly, I agree, and I want to confirm that.
Yes, the scope is correct, and no bias going in is correct, and the commission is committed, whoever's going on that working group, that's the manner in which it's going to be conducted. That was expressed earlier.
Can we like send a letter to like board saying like we really can't wait to this study to be like, let's move this along?
Board of Selectmen.
We did last month. I mean, we can do it again.
Do it again.
Do it again.
Like we've turned the page, like the political ads are done. Let's go.
William, I have a couple of quick questions if I could.
Sure.
Just simple housekeeping things. Everything I've read, I'd like to, for the record, obviously I'm new, and I would like to clarify with Mr. Tuttle if I could. Your union, can I ask you, how many members are in your union? Okay, and how many unions in your information? I've read everything that you've sent to us, and I just want to clarify, you were referring to a national union and your union. Am I correct or incorrect?
Yes, we have the International Association of Firefighters, which has 350,000 members.
350, okay.
5,000 and change in locals. The state association that has about 3,500 members.
Okay, I follow up with the following question. Your letter or your written documentation indicated a unanimous word. So I took that to mean it was the majority of those 102. Am I correct or incorrect?
So it was the majority, it was everyone who was there who voted like.
Okay. Just for the record, the word unanimous tells me it's the majority of your union. And so I misunderstood that. Fortunately for me, I have a chairman and a new chairman who explained it all to me. I'm just clarifying the
Yes.
numbers that are in your union.
We
Thank
only
you.
let the people who were there vote.
Thank you, Mr. Tuttle.
So
Thank you, Liam.
Sure, thank
All
you.
answered.
Does anyone have any other questions? The letter to the Board of Selectmen, we urge you to authorize the fire chief to execute the study of personnel and fire locations forthwith.
Yeah,
Forthwith.
yeah, forthwith. I would put expedite.
Sure.
And Chairman, it's commonly referred to as the fire station study. It includes staffing, but it's commonly referred to as fire.
We urge you to authorize the fire chief.
We did this last month.
Yeah,
Excuse me, Liam, Dorothea is raising her hand.
sorry, Dorothea?
Yes, I'm not clear, and that's probably the Zoom issue, but we should do that as a formal resolution so we can actually vote it as
Okay,
well as sending them a letter. And I agree with it.
thank you, Dorothy. Thank you very much.
Is there new business?
Yep.
Okay.
A good question. Chief, is there a number or something associated with the, for lack of a better term, the docket number or something for that thing that we can reference for the town, or is it just fire station study and that was it?
There is not a number. It's not a delineator.
Okay.
Fire
Reference to.
station study.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
There's an I mean, there's probably a bid number, but nobody uses that, so it would be
All right.
unrecognizable.
Same letter from last month and just say it again, add that in there.
I will resend the study to the Board of Fire Commissioners, the response from the consultant, so you have it.
Any further questions?
If you could resend that, that would be great.
We can send it.
Yeah, that, no, I'm all set. Thank you.
Mine, right?
Good discussion.
Old business, business,
Donation.
oh, I'm sorry, donations.
Yeah.
I don't believe there are any donations. There are several thank you letters.
I didn't see any donations in the package.
There's no cert report also.
Oh, sir,
No, she's not on, she put it to me that no cert.
thank you.
Did Commissioner Sento contact you? Right, okay, so he is in Colorado, he's got a spotty connection. Apologize if that's what he gets, but know someone.
While there are no donations, there are thank you letters from Acting Fire Chief Bridgeport and Mr. Ed. Old business. New business,
Make a motion to, the letter from our commission, the Board of Selectmen, to vote on and expedite the, station survey study.
Seconded.
should we say station service?
Fire station study.
Fire
station
study.
Fire station,
Motion. Say, just put the word get in there.
yeah, we say fire station.
People want to keep it simple.
Sure.
What we said last month, but just stick the word get in there and send it back out, so I'm trying to make it right.
What do you think? Yeah.
It was worded fine last month. Allegedly.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
Thank you for doing it, Liam.
Yeah, thanks.
FOI, there's some FOI materials in your packet from the town clerk. I was just gonna go over a couple of things. I looked at the statute this week. The major thing that affects us. So a meeting would be a quorum of the commission, person over Zoom or over email. Meeting does not include chance meeting. So it hasn't applied here, but we are allowed to send out the notice of meeting and send the agenda without violating the rules. There's also the executive session we can go to discuss a limited number of, for a limited number of purposes. Not vote in executive session, all votes have to be on the record. So discussion section 11 of the township, which I gave you, also gave you, and basically that with public. If you have a conflict of interest, which would be some sort of business or property benefit that you would get from the community, use yourself on that issue. If you're unsure if you have a conflict, I'll walk you through it. Failure to follow either the freedom of information or the Section 9 rules can result in by either the freedom of information commission or discussion.
Right. I just want to say that, and it's not every year, but it's like every other year, the town actually holds a workshop
Right.
on freedom of information and on it goes into Robert's rules a little bit. The workshops are very informative stuff. It should come around again. I've been to a few of them. I think it'd be a good idea if you haven't been to, any commission members haven't been to just attend one of them. There runs about 2 hours in the evening. Very informative.
Yeah.
So,
Good one. Out of order on the agenda.
Okay.
It's okay if I go back.
sure.
I know we presented the fire inspector, the new, are we still on track with that with the budget? Chance?
So we don't, I got no feedback on our submission. The budget in its draft form does not include the new positions, and typically they don't until a decision is made. The first selectman and the finance department are looking at all of the requests from all of the departments. And then we'll parse through or those requests and make a determination. Fire Marshal Higgins and I have a very comprehensive, and Jen Farr certainly did a lot of the legwork as well as putting the information together to make a compelling case. And I think that we have worked to make that case. This is not a new request. It was requested in 2020, 21, 22. So we got one position out of that process, and I would expect that I would be successful this time around.
In light of that, I'd like to make a motion for an additional letter. Selectmen, the RTM, and the Board of Finance. Importance of hiring a fire marshal, fire safety. Not have enough people in that office, and there's a significant issue for the town as a result of that it's not getting enough.
I'll second that motion. Somewhat thunder.
All right.
Point, just clarification, if I may, the proper title is fire inspector.
That's cheap.
In the fire marshal's office.
Want to feel like it's.
During discussion.
How long has Higgins been there?
2018.
2018. And has it always been your position, chief, to have another one?
Yeah, we started this way back.
This is new to me, that's why I'm asking.
We identified this when I came here, that we needed additional staff. We went through a very laborious process to increase our fees to generate revenue. If you remember, the economic environment in the teens were very different. You know, cutback of state aid. There was a real reluctance to spend any more money. So we developed a fee structure to offset the cost of additional staffing. We have done all that in spades. We've generated anywhere from $300,000 to $600,000 per year in fee generation, with the express intent of offsetting the cost of additional staff in the fire marshal's office. This should be a no-brainer. We have done what we said we were gonna do back in 2016. No, quite honestly, no other department has to fund their own positions. But we felt that there was an opportunity, really based on the environment, economic environment back in 2016, that we weren't gonna get it any other way. But we have done what we need. And time has come. I think that, we are woefully behind. Part of the justification that we've sent to the selectmen, the rest of the boards have passed, the board of selectmen included in his budget, is that we are not keeping up, one, with the statutory requirement for annual inspections, and we are not consistent with other communities our size for staffing in the fire marshals.
Open liability, by Scott,
Sure.
something's best, chief is
Chief,
understaffed.
could you
Understood.
for,
Thank
just for information for maybe some of the newer commissions, go over the total staffing of the fire marshal's office of what's there, because it's more than just Phil that's in there.
Yeah, so the fire marshal's office has a fire marshal, that's Phil Higgins, a deputy fire marshal, which is Lieutenant Jeff Edmondson, 2 fire inspectors, Ron Vargo and Tom Pond. Hank Ferentz was a fire inspector and set the standard for the division in his hard work and work ethic. And we would then raise, so there's 4 people in the division right now, I would raise it to 5. And they're supported by Jen Farr, who is the admin.
Thank you for explaining.
Inspections done, the firefighters are criminals, communities are lawsuits, everything else, it's just a disaster the entire way around. Long overdue, political and financial decision was made that the commission has disagreed with for years. Quite frankly, it's not in the interest of the position, it needs to be hired, and this discussion needs to stop all.
And if in part of the justification, if you look at what's being built in town, it is residential apartment. And you're not seeing a lot of single family homes being built. You're seeing university dorms, high-rise apartment. Each one of those requires an annual inspection.
Period.
Commissioner Finner.
So are we still seconded, or does this discussion may just need to resubmit this motion?
No, we're still discussing.
Discussion.
All right, so let's go to all.
Yeah, because I think we're approaching the size of a small city. I mean, Chief was mentioning by numbers of buildings and everything else, so it's coming to a head.
Who will call the question? I call
Yes,
for it.
yes, ma'am.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Any other business? I'm sorry, public comment. Oh, 8. The motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel.
Is there a second? Second.
Okay.
Who's invited into that session?
I actually, can I amend my, and I don't know how to do this.
You're doing it, go ahead.
Because I don't know if we need 2 executive sessions. Because I want to invite 2 different people for 2 different
Oh,
subject matters.
it's,
You go into whatever one you want to go in first, then go back into public session.
And then come back into executive session again. Okay,
What do you want for the first?
so the first executive session would be the chief,
Only the chief, right?
only the chief.
Okay, I'm gonna put it on mute then.
Okay.
Never mind, failed again.
Come and get me when you want to.
if it's on mute, I as a member can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Dorothy,
Yes.
the only thing is, it'll be recorded in the recording that goes that gets uploaded, so if we put you on mute and maybe you have a phone call where you speaker in, would that work?
He's in Italy.
Oh, you're in Italy, sorry.
Actually, I'm in Egypt, but thank you.
I don't know how to do this otherwise.
If you have a problem. So, available by WhatsApp?
That's what I was gonna ask, Chief. I'm available by WhatsApp.
I'm calling you now.
I'm
This way she can record the times.
Back into
Okay,
it.
no, we're just gonna
No,
go
yeah,
back.
go in, yeah. Thank you, sorry.
Okay.
So we're back on the clock, on the,
We are back in public session.
Somebody's gonna motion to move back into public session and somebody's gonna second it, and then you're
Motion to move back in.
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Sorry,
now
guys.
somebody's gonna motion to move back in.
Motion to go back into executive session.
Wait.
Oh boy. Bye.
Shouldn't we also, there's usually a statement and.
Yes.
there were no votes.
There were no motions,
No, whatever.
no motions and no votes were taken
No
in
motions made or
executive.
votes taken, okay,
Yes, motion to move back into executive session.
second,
Second.
All those in favor?
All right. And at this point in time, we are inviting the deputy chief.
thank you.
May I stay?
Make sure I get this.
Up to him, right?
I don't have an opinion on that. I want the deputy here.
Okay, just.
Go back in public session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 No votes or motions were taken in the executive session.
Is there any other business?
Quick learner.
That's right, sir.
Public comment?
Well, we lost all the public.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Any other business? Other business?
Let's see, no, I'll get shot if I bring something else up.
Seconded, made and seconded. by Commissioner Finneran. All those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Have a wonderful time. If you have any problems. just
Dorothy,
give me a
take
call.
care of yourself.